Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Ram Ram,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम।
और ये प्रभु राजू प्रभु
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
अरे राजू प्रभु వినిపిస్తుందా?
వినిపిస్తుంది ప్రభు जी।
అవారి అంటున్నా అవారి జరిగిందా?
फाइन फाइन प्रभु जी फाइन।
యాత్ర బాగా జరిగిందా?
బాగా జరిగింది ప్రభు जी, యాత్ర బాగా జరిగింది, కానీ సరిపోలేదు ప్రభు जी, తొందరగా అయిపోయింది। యాక్చువల్లీ నిన్న పోయి వాళ్ళు వచ్చినట్టుంది ప్రభు जी నిజంగా।
2 వారాలు పెట్టుకోవాలి అయిపోతే।
అదే ఓకే ప్రభు जी, హరే కృష్ణ హరే కృష్ణ హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే। హరే కృష్ణ మాతాజీ।
హరే కృష్ణ ప్రభుజీ, ఎలా జరిగింది ప్రభుజీ యాత్ర?
బాగా జరిగింది మాతాజీ,
బ్లిస్ఫుల్ యాత్ర।
ఎస్ మాతాజీ।
పిల్లలు కూడా చేశారా గోవర్ధన్ పరిక్రమ, లేకపోతే ఆటోలో వెళ్ళారా?
ఆటోలో వచ్చారు మాతాజీ, వాళ్ళ ఆటోలో వచ్చారు, వాళ్ళు ఇద్దరు।
మీ అమ్మగారు వచ్చారా?
లేదు మాతాజీ। ఓకే మాతాజీ,
హరే కృష్ణ।
అప్పటికి ఈవినింగ్ ప్రసాదం తీసుకొస్తా మాతాజీ।
హరే కృష్ణ।
హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే, హరే రామ రామ హరే హరే। హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే, హరే రామ రామ హరే హరే। హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే, హరే రామ రామ హరే హరే। హరే కృష్ణ 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 హరే హరే, హరే రామ రామ హరే హరే। హరే కృష్ణ
Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna,
हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Hare Hare जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव साथी गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Ram Ram Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Ram
Hare
Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram
Hare Hare
नमस्कार। जय श्री कृष्ण। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसाति गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्त वृंद, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण कृष्ण
Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranam. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji, Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah, shall we start our reading session for today? Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Welcome back all. Hare Krishna, Matajis and Prabhujis. Yeah. Hare Krishna, can you able to see my screen? Prabhuji sir, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Deepa Mataji, you can start.
Yes, Mataji. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Whoever is under the influence of supreme Kala, eternal time, must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. Purport. A great Indian scientist busy in the plan-making business was suddenly called by invincible eternal time while going to attend a very important meeting of the planning commission, and he had to surrender his life, wife, children, house, land, wealth, etc. During the political upsurge in India and its division into Pakistan and Hindustan, so many rich and influential Indians had to surrender life, property, and honor due to the influence of time. And there are hundreds of thousands of examples like that all over the world, all over the universe, which are all effects of the influence of time. Therefore, the conclusion is that there is no powerful living being within the universe who can overcome the influence of time. Many poets have written verses lamenting the influence of time. Many devastations have taken place over the universes due to the influence of time. No one could check them by any means. Even in our daily life, so many things come and go in which we have no hand, but we have to suffer or tolerate them without remedial measure. That is the result of time. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Samyukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Your father, brother, well-wishers and sons are all dead and passed away. You yourself have expended the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity and you are living in the home of another. Purport. The king is reminded of his precarious condition. Influenced by cruel time and by his past experience, he should have been more intelligent to see what was going to happen in his own life. His father, Vichitra Virya, died long ago when he and his young brothers were all little children, and it was due to the care and kindness of Bhishma Deva that they were properly brought up. Then again his brother Pandu died also. Then in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, his 100 sons and his grandsons all died, along with all other well-wishers like Bhishma Deva, Dronacharya, Karna, and many other kings and friends. So he had lost all men and money, and now he was living at the mercy of his nephew, whom he had put into trouble of various types. And despite all these reverses, he thought that he would prolong his life more and more. Vidura wanted to point out to Dhritarashtra that everyone has to protect himself by his action and the grace of the Lord. One has to execute his duty faithfully, depending for the results on the supreme authority. No friend, no children, no father, no brother, no state, and no one else can protect a person who is not protected by the Supreme Lord. One should therefore seek the protection of the Supreme Lord, for the human form of life is meant for seeking that protection. Dhritarashtra was warned of his precarious conditions more and more by the following words. Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank you.
Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, I'll read. 1.13.22. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. You have been blind from your very birth, and recently you have become hard of hearing. Your memory is shortened and your intelligence is disturbed. Your teeth are loose, your liver is defective, and you are coughing up mucus. Purport. The symptoms of old age, which had already developed in Dhritarashtra, were all one after another pointed out to him as a warning that death was nearing very quickly. And still he was foolishly carefree about his future. The signs pointed out by Vidura in the body of Dhritarashtra were signs of apakshaya, or dwindling of the material body before the last stroke of death. The body is born, it develops, stays, creates other bodies, dwindles, and then vanishes. But foolish men want to make a permanent settlement of the perishable body and think that their estate, children, society, country, etc. will give them protection. With such foolish ideas, they become overtaken by such temporary engagements and forget altogether that they must give up this temporary body and take a new one, again to arrange for another term of society, friendship, and love, again to perish ultimately. They forget their permanent identity and become foolishly active for impermanent occupations, forgetting altogether their prime duty. Saints and sages like Vidura approach such foolish men to awaken them to the real situation. But they take such sadhus and saints as parasites of society, and almost all of them refuse to hear the words of such sadhus and saints. Although they welcome show bottle sadhus and so-called saints who can satisfy their senses. Vidura was not a sadhu to satisfy the ill-gotten sentiment of Dhritarashtra. He was correctly pointing out the real situation of life and how one can save oneself from catastrophes, such catastrophes. Yeah. Raja Prabhuji, you can start.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Hare.
Dandat.
Yeah,
Translation. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of living being to continue his life. Verily, you are living just like a household dog and are eating remnants of food given by Bhima. Purport. A sadhu should never flatter kings or rich men to live comfortable at their cost. A sadhu is to speak to householders about the naked truth of life so that they may come to their senses about the precarious life in material existence. Dhritarashtra is a typical example of an attached old man in household life. He had become pauper in the true sense, yet he wanted to live comfortably in the house of Pandavas, of whom Bhima especially is mentioned because personally he killed two prominent sons of Dhritarashtra, namely Duryodhana and Dushasana. These two sons were very much dear to him for their notorious and nefarious activities, and Bhima is particularly pointed out because he killed these two pet sons. Why was Dhritarashtra living there at the house of the Pandavas? Because he wanted to continue his life comfortably, even at the risk of all humiliation. Vidura therefore was astonished how powerful is the urge to continue life. This sense of continuing once indicates that living being is eternally a living entity and does not want to change his bodily habitation. The foolish man does not know that the particular term of bodily existence is awarded him to undergo a term of imprisonment, and the human body is awarded after many births and deaths as a chance of self-realization to go back to home, go back to Godhead. But person like Dhritarashtra try to make plans to live there in comfortable position with profit and interest, for they do not see the things as they are. Dhritarashtra is blind and continue to live comfortably in the midst of all kinds of reverses of life. A sadhu like Vidura is meant to awaken such blind person to thus help them go back to Godhead, where the life is eternal. Once going there, no one wants to come back to this material world of miseries. We can just imagine how responsible task is entrusted to sadhu like Mahatma Vidura. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Lalit Mohan Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. Mataji, the before shloka, like, how tough is the life, urge, that is an important shloka, Mataji. Vidura chastises Dhritarashtra. This one. Alas, how powerful are the hopes?
Oh, okay, translation.
Yeah, translation. Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living being to continue his life? Verily, you are living just like a household dog and are eating remnants of the food given by Bhima. Sloka Mataji, please. अहो महीयसी जन्तु जीविताशा यथा भवान् भीमा पवर्जितं पिण्डम् आदत्ते गृहपालवत्. So this is where the chastising starts. So you can take to the next sloka.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I also want to add that a strong statement here is life is given for imprisonment, not for sense gratification. That was there in the bottom of the purport. But
Yeah.
it is human nature to think that life is for enjoying, right? So that's a good point.
Yes, Mother. To come out of that imprisonment, probably life is meant for to come out of that imprisonment.
Yeah, so we are sent to this jail here, not to enjoy life here on the planet.
Yeah. We are not sent, Prabhuji. We came here actually. We came here because our soul wanted to enjoy. Without God, without the Supreme, we wanted to enjoy. That is the reason why we are sent here, and we are given all the facilities. But there are some certain rules and regulations here. Rules of karma, which we should follow. If we don't follow, then we will be rotating here only in the cycle of birth and death. And some sadhu at one time he will come and he will just again make us know what is the goal of life, and then we will go away from this place again. You got
Yes,
it?
Prabhuji, but what I noticed is that, though we understand this at this moment, but eventually, when we continue with our lives, we forget this fact that, how precious and valuable this life is, and how important it is to use for the right purpose. In my case also, I have read this statement before in other classes, but I forget it soon, we forget that realization very soon.
No, you will be doing it for 20-30 years more, Prabhuji. Now you just started now. It's just 3-4 years now. People who followed for 40 years, they are saying this statement, Prabhuji, not you and me. So, but then still they are in the process. That is the good part.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing is different, Prabhuji, and realizing is different. Realizing, it works differently for different people. For some, it will take 50 years. For some, it will take 1 year, depending upon the, what is it? The bhakti has done in his previous life.
Yes, Prabhuji.
One 13:24 translation. There is no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you tried to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted their married wife and usurped their kingdom and wealth. Purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The system of Varnashrama religion sets aside a part of one's life completely for the purpose of self-realization and attainment of salvation in the human form of life. That is a routine division of life. But persons like Dhritarashtra, even at their very ripened age, want to stay home, even in a degraded condition of accepting charity from enemies. Vidura wanted to point this out and impressed upon him that it was better to die like his sons than accept such humiliating charity. 5,000 years ago, there was one Dhritarashtra, but at present moment, there are Dhritarashtras in every home. Politicians especially do not retire from political activities unless they are dragged by the cruel hand of death or killed by some opposing element. To stick to family to the end of one's human life is the grossest type of degradation, and there is an absolute need for the Viduras to educate such Dhritarashtras even at the present moment. Thank you, Mother.
Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Sapan Kumar Prabhuji, you can write.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Translation: despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. Purport: the words kripanasya jijviso are significant. There are two classes of men. One is called Kripana and the other is called Brahmana. Kripana, or the miserly man, has no estimation of his material body, but the Brahmana has true estimation of himself and the material body. The Kripana, having wrong estimation of material body, wants to enjoy sense gratification with his utmost strength, and even in old age he wants to become a young man by medical treatment or otherwise. Dhritarashtra is addressed herein as Kripana because without any estimation of his material body, he wants to live at any cost. Vidura is trying to open his eyes to see that he cannot live more than his term and that he must prepare for death. Since death is inevitable, why should he accept such a humiliating position for living? It is better to take the right path even at the risk of death. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material conception of life had already where was that line? It is missing the line.
It is better to take the right path, Mahapari.
It is better to take the right path, even at the risk of death. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence, and life should be so regulated that one can achieve the desired goal. Dhritarashtra, due to his wrong conception of life, had already spoiled 80% of his achieved energy. So it behooved him to utilize the remaining days of his miserly life for the ultimate good. Such a life is called miserly because one cannot properly utilize the assets of human form of life. Only by good luck does such a miserly man meet a self-realized soul like Vidura, and by his instructions gets rid of the nascence of material existence. I have a question here. What does estimation of material body mean? Does it mean realization that material body is temporary?
Where is it, Prabhuji?
Second line in the purport. Kripana, or the miserly man, has no estimation of his material body.
Yeah, probably why he got this material body? What is the purpose?
Yeah, but
that's my guess.
yeah, actually that is the thing, Prabhuji, because material body has 6 types of changes, right, Prabhuji, like birth and gives products like dwindle, vanishes. So like at the end we have to die. So we have to utilize this body for the self-realization, to know the Supreme, and we have to connect with the Supreme. That is the self-realization. Like normal people, they live like whatever it's happened, it's like ఏం పట్టించుకోరు అన్నట్టు దాని గురించి, ఎట్లయితే అట్లనే అనుకుంటారు. కానీ సెల్ఫ్ రియలైజ్ బ్రాహ్మణాస్ అలాంటి వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారు, అసలు మనం లైక్ ఎందుకు వచ్చినాము, ఏంటి మన రిలేషన్, మనం ఇక్కడ నుండి ఎట్లా వెళ్ళాలి, అది ఆలోచిస్తారు. అది
Okay, Mataji.
అర్థమైందా ప్రభుజీ? హరే కృష్ణ.
Yes, it's Hare Krishna.
Yeah, plus here it is also compared, like when we see a comparison, the miserly.
Mataji, your voice is very low, Mataji.
Okay. Yeah, so here Kripana or miserly man has no estimation of his material body, but Brahmana has a true estimation of himself and the material body. So here they are comparing with a Brahmana. Brahmana is one who is self-realized, who understands that the soul is different from the body and that he is the soul, not the body. So Kripana should be a person in comparison who has no estimation, that no realization of soul or self, and just thinks that he is the material body and he is here to enjoy. That is my understanding.
Yeah, yes. Clear అయిందా ప్రభుజీ మీ డౌట్? హరే కృష్ణ.
Yeah, clear, Mataji.
Yes, ప్రభుజీ. Yeah, హరే కృష్ణ. Yeah, Deepa Mataji, you can start.
Yes, Mataji. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown remote place and freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. Purport. Narottam Das Thakura, a great devotee and acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava sect, has sung, "My Lord, I have simply wasted my life. Having obtained the human body, I have neglected to worship your lordship, and therefore I have willingly drunk poison." In other words, the human body is especially meant for cultivating knowledge of devotional service to the Lord, without which life becomes full of anxieties and miserable conditions. Sorry. Therefore, one who has spoiled his life without such cultural activities is advised to leave home without knowledge of friends and relatives, and being thus freed from all obligations of family, society, country, etc., give up the body at some unknown destination, so that others may not know where and how he has met his death. Dhira means one who is not disturbed, even when there is sufficient provocation. One cannot give up a comfortable family life due to his affectionate relation with his wife and children. Self-realization is obstructed by such undue affection for family, and if anyone is at all able to forget such a relation, he is called undisturbed or dhira. This is, however, the path of renunciation based on a frustrated life. But stabilization of such renunciation is possible only by association with bona fide saints and self-realized souls, by which one can be engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord. Sincere surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is possible by awakening the transcendental sense of service. చంద్రమౌళి ప్రభు ఒకసారి మ్యూట్ లో పెట్టుకోరా. చంద్రమౌళి ప్రభు ఒకసారి మ్యూట్ లో పెట్టుకోరా.
Mute చేసి.
Sincere surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is possible by awakening the transcendental sense of service. This is made possible by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Dhritarashtra was lucky enough to have a brother whose very association was a source of liberation for this frustrated life. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Did I miss any sentence in between, Mataji?
No, Mataji. Yeah, I just want to add one thing. Like in Bhagavad Gita 2.13, it says like you all know that. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jira tata dehantara prapti dhirastatrana mohyati. As you know, right? Dhira means who is not bewildered by such a change, like boyhood, youth. Because he knows, right? So he doesn't fall under this bodily platform. He is only on the soul platform. So he is Dhira. He's not bewildered by such a change. Like all these changes are mentioning here, right? So just want to add. Yeah, Samyukta Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Oh, sorry.
Translation. He is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands either by himself or from others the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. Purport. There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely the Dhira, or the one who is not disturbed by being away from family association, one in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi by frustrated sentiment, and three, a sincere devotee of the Lord, who awakens God consciousness by hearing and chanting and leaves home depending completely on the personality of Godhead who resides in his heart. The idea is that the renounced order of life after a frustrated life of sentiment in the material world may be the stepping stone on the path of self-realization, but real perfection of the path of liberation is attained when one is practiced to depend fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who lives in everyone's heart as Paramatma. One may live in the darkest jungle alone out of home, but steadfast devotee knows very well that he is not alone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is with him, and he can protect his sincere devotee in any awkward circumstance. One should therefore practice devotional service at home, hearing and chanting the holy name, quality, form, pastimes, encourage, etc., in association with pure devotees. And this practice will help one awaken God consciousness in proportion to one's sincerity of purpose. One who desires material benefit by such devotional activities can never depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he sits in everyone's heart. Nor does the Lord gives any direction to persons who worship him for material gain. Such materialistic devotees may be blessed by the Lord with material benefits, but they cannot reach the stage of the first-class human being as above mentioned. There are many examples of such sincere devotees in the history of the world, especially in India, and they are our guides on the path of self-realization. Mahatma Vidura is one such great devotee of the Lord, and we should all try to follow in his lotus footsteps for self-realization. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Please, therefore, leave for the north immediately, without letting your relatives know, for soon the time will approach which will diminish your good qualities of men. Purport. One can compensate for life of frustration by becoming a Dhira or leaving home for good without communicating with relatives. And Vidura advised his eldest brother to adopt this way without delay, because very quickly the age of Kali was approaching. A conditioned soul is already degraded by the material association, and still in the Kali Yuga, the good qualities of a man will deteriorate to the lowest standard. He was advised to leave home before Kali Yuga approached, because the atmosphere which was created by Vidura, his valuable instructions on the facts of life, would fade away due to the influence of the age, which was fast approaching. To become Narottama, or a first-class human being, depending completely upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not possible for any ordinary man. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.28 that a person who is completely relieved of all taints of sinful acts can alone depend on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Dhritarashtra was advised by Vidura at least to become a Dhira in the beginning, if it were impossible for him to become a sannyasi or Narottama. Persistently endeavoring on the line of self-realization helps a person to rise to the conditions of Narottama from the stage of a Dhira. The Dhira stage is attained after prolonged practice of the yoga system. But by the grace of Vidura, one can attain the state immediately simply by willing to adopt the means of Dhira stage, which is the preparatory stage for sannyasa. The sannyasa stage is the preparatory stage of Paramahamsa, or the first-class devotee of the Lord. Yeah, Raju Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Adaptation. Thus Maharaja Dhritarashtra, the scion of the family of Ajamita, firmly convinced by the introspective knowledge, Prajna, broke it once the strong network of familial affection by his resolute determination. Thus, he immediately left home to set out on the path of liberation, as directed by his younger brother Vidura. Purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the great preacher of the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, has stressed the importance of association with sadhu, pure devotees of the Lord. He said that even by a moment's association with pure devotee, one can achieve all perfection. We are not ashamed to admit that this fact was experienced in our practical life. Were we not favored by His divine grace, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja, by our first meeting for a few minutes only, it would have been impossible for us to accept is this mighty task of describing Srimad Bhagavatam in English. Without seeing him at the opportune moment, we could have become a very great business magnate, but never would we have been able to walk the path of liberation and be engaged in the factual service of the Lord under instructions of His divine grace. And is another practical example by the action of Vidura's association with Dhritarashtra. Maharaja Dhritarashtra was tightly bound in a network of material affinities related to politics, economy, and family attachment, and he did everything in his power to achieve so-called success in his planned projects, but he was frustrated from the beginning to the end so far as his material activities were concerned. And yet, despite his a life of failure, he achieved the greatest of all success in self-realization by the forceful instructions of a pure devotee of the Lord, who is the typical emblem of sadhu. The scriptures enjoin therefore that one should associate with sadhus only, rejecting all kinds of association, and by doing so one will have ample opportunity to hear the sadhu. We can cut the pieces of bonds of illusory affection in the material world. It is a fact that the material world is a great illusion because everything appears to be tangible reality, but at the next moment evaporates like the dashing foam of sea or a cloud in the sky. A cloud in the sky undoubtedly appears to be reality because it rains, and due to rain, so many temporary green things appear. But the ultimate issue, everything disappears, namely the cloud, rain, and green vegetation, all in due course. But in the the sky remains, and the varieties of sky are luminaries also remain forever. Similarly, the absolute truth, which is compared to the sky, remains eternally, and the temporary clouds like illusion comes and goes away. Foolish living beings are attracted by the temporary cloud, but intelligent men are more concerned with the eternal sky with all the very variegatedness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Here we have this one, right? Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha hoy, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi hoy. That means even a fraction of the second. It's like it says lava means 1/12 of the second, I think. I'm not sure, but it's a very minute thing. But if we get the association of sadhu, we will get some self-realization because they have that one, right? So they will give that, they have that power, potency to give that self-realization. That's what he is saying. Actually, Dhritarashtra was so stubborn and he's very attached to his families, his friends and relatives, everyone. But after Vidura saying after Vidura instruction, he accepted that Vidura's instruction and is ready to go. Now he's saying Dhira, because he is not in the devotional path, right? So first Vidura is saying first you have to become Dhira. That means you have to cut down all your boundaries and everything family life. So the next process will be attachment to the Supreme. First you have to cut this, that is the Dhira stage. So first you have to be you have to go to Dhira stage, then you gradually progress. That's what he's saying. And now he is accepted Vidura's instruction and is now becoming Dhira and is ready to go back because of association of great Vidura. Yeah. Yeah. Lakshman Kumar, Lalit Mohan Prabhuji.
Mataji, please let Chandramali Prabhu read.
Chandramali Prabhuji is there. Yeah, Prabhuji, Chandramali Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, read Chandramali Prabhuji. 1.13.30.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The gentle and the gentle and chastity Gandhari, who was the daughter of King Subala of Kandahar or Gandhara, followed her husband, seeing that he was going to the Himalayan mountains, which are the delight of those who have accepted the staff of the renounced order, like fighters who have accepted a good lashing from the enemy. Purport. Sobalni or Gandhari, daughter of King Subala and wife of King Dhritarashtra, was ideal as a wife devoted to her husband. The Vedic civilization especially prepares chaste and devoted wives, of whom Gandhari is one amongst many mentioned in history. Lakshmiji Sita Devi was also a daughter of great king, but she followed her husband Lord Ramchandra into the forest. Similarly, as a woman, Gandhari could have remained at home or at her father's house, but as a chaste and gentle lady, she followed her husband without consideration. Instructions for the renounced order of life were imparted to Dhritarashtra by Vidura, and Gandhari was by the side of her husband. But he did not ask her to follow him because he was at the time fully determined, like a great warrior who faces all kinds of dangers in the battlefield. He was no longer attracted to so-called wife or relatives, and he decided to start alone. But as a chaste lady, Gandhari decided to follow her husband till the last moment. Maharaja Dhritarashtra accepted the order of Vanaprastha, and at this stage, the wife is allowed to remain as a voluntary observator. But in the sannyasa stage, no wife can stay with her former husband. A sannyasi is considered to be a dead man civilly, and therefore the wife becomes a civil widow without a connection with her former husband. Maharaja Dhritarashtra did not deny his faithful wife, and she followed her husband at her own risk. The sannyasis accept the rod as the sign of the renounced order of life. There are two types of sannyasis. Those who follow the Mayavadi philosophy, headed by Sripada Sankaracharya, accepted only one rod, Ekadanda. But those who follow the Vaishnavite philosophy accept three combined rods, Tridanda. The Mayavadi sannyasis are Ekadandi Swamis, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis are known as Tridandi Swamis, or more distinctly Tridandi Goswamis, in order to be distinguished from the Mayavadi philosophers. The Ekadanti Swamis are mostly fond of the Himalayas, but the Vaishnava sannyasis are fond of Vrindavana and Puri. The Vaishnava sannyasis are Narottamas, whereas the Mayavadi sannyasis are Dhiras. Maharaja Dhritarashtra was advised to follow the Dhiras because at that stage it was difficult for him to become a Narottama. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Lalit Mohan Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Maharaj. Translation. Maharaj Yudhishthira, whose enemy was never born, performed his daily morning duties by praying, offering fire sacrifice to the sun god, and offering obeisances, grains, cows, land, and gold to the Brahmanas. He then entered the palace to pay respects to the elderly. However, he could not find his uncles or aunt, the daughter of King Subala. Purport. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the most pious king because he personally practiced daily the pious duties for the householders. The householders are required to rise early in the morning, and after bathing, they should offer respects to the deities at home by prayers, by offering fuel in the sacred fire, by giving the Brahmanas in charity land, cows, grains, gold, etc. And at last, offering to the elderly members due respects and obeisances. One who is not prepared to practice injunctions prescribed in the Shastras cannot be a good man simply by book knowledge. Modern householders are practiced to different modes of life, namely to rise late and then take bed tea without any sort of cleanliness and without any purificatory process as mentioned above. The household children are taken to practice what the parents practice, and therefore the whole generation glides towards hell. Nothing good can be expected from them unless associated with sadhus. Like Dhritarashtra, the materialistic persons may take lessons from a sadhu like Vidura and thus be cleansed of the effects of modern life. Maharaj Yudhishthira, however, could not find in the palace his two uncles, namely Dhritarashtra and Vidura, along with Gandhari, the daughter of King Subala. He was anxious to see them and therefore asked Sanjaya, the private secretary of Dhritarashtra. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Sapan Kumar Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Maharaja Yudhishthira, full of anxiety, turned to Sanjaya, who was sitting there, and said, "Oh Sanjaya, where is our uncle who is old and blind?" Can I continue, Mataji?
Yes, yes. Hare Krishna. Just a second. Yes, Prabhuji.
Translation: Where is my well-wisher uncle Vidura and mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to all her sons' demise? My uncle Dhritarashtra was also mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I am very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offenses very seriously and, along with his wife, drown himself in the Ganges? Purport: The Pandavas, especially Maharaja Yudhishthira and Arjuna, anticipated the after effects of the battle of Kurukshetra, and therefore Arjuna decided to decline to execute the fighting. The fight was executed by the will of the Lord, but the effects of the family agreement, as they had thought of it before, had come to be true. Maharaja Yudhishthira was always conscious of great plight of his uncle Dhritarashtra and aunt Gandhari, and therefore he took all possible care of them in their old age and aggrieved conditions. When therefore he could not find his uncle and aunt in the palace, naturally his doubts arose, and he conjectured that they had gone down to the water of Ganges. He thought himself ungrateful because when the Pandavas were fatherless, Maharaja Yudhishthira had given them all royal facilities to live, and in return he had killed all Dhritarashtra's son in the battle of Kurukshetra. As a pious man, Maharaja Yudhishthira took into account all his unfavorable misdeeds, and he never thought of the misdeeds his uncle and company. Misdeeds of his uncle and company. Dhritarashtra had suffered the effects of his own misdeeds by the will of the Lord, but Maharaja Yudhishthira was thinking only of his own unavoidable misdeeds. This is the nature of a good man and devotee of the Lord. A devotee never finds fault with others but tries to find his own and thus rectify them as far as possible. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yeah, we'll start Sloka recitation. Just a second.
Hare Krishna Mataji, unda మీ దగ్గర?
Yeah, undi. 1 second. Yeah. Are you able to see Mataji?
Yes,
Yes,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Yeah.
Mataji.
Yeah. Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, shall we see the synonyms of this Mataji's information, because we didn't go this systematically.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Instead, we have gone it directly.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
So today we will see the synonyms and translation, just to know how merciful the Lord is. The first sloka is how beautiful the Lord is. The second sloka is how merciful the Lord is. Okay. These are the two slokas. See, for the Barha Pedam, The moment we enter that Barhapidam Sloka, there are some ancillary slokas of that, like now Medyate Braha, and one more, that Brahmana Patnis, how they see Krishna. Right? Those are the two slokas which we have learned.
Shamam Hiranyaparidam.
Yeah, Shyamam Hiranyaparidam. Those are the two slokas which we have learned to know the importance of Barhapidam. And when the Barhapidam is known, then this Ahopakyam trails that, because these are the only two slokas which changed even in personalist. These two show the the beauty of the Lord and the mercy of the Lord. So that is the reason we have covered these 5 slokas. They all go together actually. The 4 slokas, they all go together generally. Okay, that is the reason why it has taken a lot of time for us. But still, we can spend that time. And after this, what we do is we'll go to Brahma Samhita. Okay, there is a tune in Brahma Samhita tune, and there is one tune of Shadagoswami Ashtakam.
Mukundamala Stotram అయిపోయింది.
That is the last thing which we will do.
Okay.
And then by this, the major tunes will be completed. And then there will be just tweak tune for the second tune which we have learned. The second tune which we have learned is, what is it? After the Shrutva Gunan, we have learned one tune. What is it?
Grihe Grihe Govindam Damodara.
No,
not that one, Mataji. Before that, one more.
Adi Param Adi Param Vidhama.
Yeah. Second Sloka, second tune we have learned. What is it? About the glances. He will give a slide long glances.
Akshanvatam?
Yes, Akshanvatam. So there will be a small tweak to that Akshanvatam. There is one more tune which tweaks the Akshanvatam, but it will be different. Okay, the first line will be different. The whole sloka is like continue, it will be same. So with this, we will be completing our slokas, tunes for reciting sloka, and from here it starts actually. How much interest we have on slokas, that will be known from the part after this, because till this time we are learning the new things, so the passion kicks in. From then on, the actual mode of goodness will come according to how much interest we have on this. Understood, Mataji and Prabhujis? See, so this newness will be completed after some time, 2 or 3 months, maximum 2 months. Then actually we will practice every sloka in different tunes. We will practice the slokas of Bhagavatam. Okay?
Okay, Prabhuji. Yes. We should also go back to our shlokas we learnt in Bhakti Shastri, Prabhuji. Otherwise, we are forgetting them.
Yeah, we will have a repeating session, Mataji. Once in a month, we will have a repeat of all the shlokas.
Yeah,
see, Mataji, our aim is not to remember the shlokas, but to pass the time in Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Because at the end of our life, we might not remember the shlokas, but we should remember the name of the Lord at least.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And by practice every day, we will at least remember Mataji. That is the main goal. Goal is not to become a pandit in Sanskrit. Goal is to pass the time in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, that somehow, is true, Prabhuji, but what is learned shouldn't be unknown.
Yeah, yes, Mataji, that is true, but it will not come at the time of need. When your bodily pain is so much, you cannot remember Sloka, Mataji. What you can remember is Amma, Krishna, that you should remember. For that to remember, we are doing all these things.
Okay, Prabhuji.
So the goal should be very clear, and the process which we are going through should not increase our ego. That is the main fundamental. That's the main theme which I'm trying to let you know.
The idea is also like to use it during preaching, Prabhuji. Like not preaching means even when you talk one-to-one with somebody and some topic comes up. So we should be able to remember what we have read and we should be able to speak. Because when we refer to Shastras only, then the message will be authentic. It will appear that we are not making it out of our own whims and fancies. That was my original intention. But yeah, what you said is also relevant.
Okay, Mataji. You might use it for preaching, but our goal of life is to transcend all these things, right? Yes, we do preaching. Preaching is our mission. There is no doubt in that. We do those things. But, you know, I have seen many devotees, Mataji, who started this at this point and ended something else, becoming a Sanskrit scholar and going away from Krishna consciousness. So that should not be our goal.
Yes.
Or that should not be our. We should always be concentrated on where we should go, why we are doing what we are doing.
Yes, Prabhu.
So we are doing all this sloka recitation to pass our time in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, so that some habit kicks into our own body, and at the time of death, this will come to our rescue. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So now where we are just completing the Barhapidam sloka by this sloka. By Ahobakyan, the entourage of this Barhapidam will get completed. And then we will learn 4 more tunes. That will take 4 weeks. Means oddly 1.5 months. We will complete all these things. Then actual thing starts. We will take the slokas, different slokas of Bhagavatam, and then we will recite canto by canto. Okay.
Yes. Yes, Prabhu.
Is everyone okay with them? Okay with that?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And let me tell you, as you are all very well versed with the tunes, it will take only 10 minutes for you, last 10 or 15 minutes for you to recite and chant a new sloka. Not this much time as what we take now. Within 10 minutes, everyone will recite every sloka. That will be this thing. Okay. And our goal is not to remember all the slokas, but to know the meanings of those slokas and pass our time in that slokas. Somehow or other, at some point of time, we might get realized of those slokas in our life. Okay.
Yes,
Okay, let us go with the synonyms. Please repeat after me 3 times. Aho,
Aho.
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 alas,
Alas.
aho.
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 I'm sorry, how we used to do it? We used to only do the
Only
verb.
one time, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Or you can say Aho alas. So there is no break in between. Baki the Shidaman Putna Atla.
Okay. Aho, alas.
Aho alas.
Aho, alas.
Aho
Aho.
alas.
Aho, alas.
Aho
Aho.
alas.
Baki, the she demon.
Baki. The
Baki the she demon.
Baki, the she demon, Putana.
Putana.
Baki the she
Baki
demon
the
Putna.
Shideman Putana.
Baki, the she demon, Putana.
Baki the
Baki
she
the
demon Putana.
Shideman Putana.
Yam, home.
Yam home.
Yam.
Yam, home.
Yam.
Yam
Yam
home.
home.
Yam, home.
Yam.
Yam home.
Sthana, of her breast.
Stana.
Stana
Of
of
her
her
Breast.
Sthana, of her breast.
Stana of her breast.
Sthana, of her breast.
Stana of her breast.
Kala, deadly.
Kala.
Kala deadly.
Kala, deadly.
Kala.
Kala deadly.
Kala, deadly.
Kala.
Kala deadly.
Kutam, poison.
Kutam
Poison.
poison.
Kutam, poison.
Kutam. Poison.
Poison.
Kutam, poison.
Kutam poison.
Jhigam, saya, out of envy.
Jigam saya out of envy.
Out of envy.
Jhigam, saya, out of envy.
Jigam
Jigam saya
out
out
of
of
envy.
envy.
Jhigam, saya, out of envy.
Jigam Shaya.
Jigam saya out of envy.
Apayayat, nourished.
Apayayat.
Apayayat nourished.
Apayayat, nourished.
Apayayat.
Apayayat
Nourished.
nourished.
Apayayat, nourished.
Apayayat.
Apayayat
Nourished.
nourished.
Api, although.
Api.
Api although.
Api, although.
Api.
Api although.
Api, although.
Api.
Api although.
Asadvi, unfaithful.
Asadvi.
Sadhvi
Faithful.
unfaithful.
Asadvi, unfaithful.
Asadvi.
Sadhvi unfaithful.
Unfaithful.
Asadvi, unfaithful.
Asadvi.
Sadhvi
Unfaithful.
unfaithful.
Lebhe, achieved.
Lebe. Achieved.
Lebe achieved.
Lebhe, achieved.
Lebe
Lebhe
achieved.
achieved.
Lebhe achieved.
Lebe
Lebhe
achieved.
achieved.
Gatim destination.
Gatim
Gatim
destination.
destination.
Gatim destination.
Gatim destination.
Gatim destination.
Gatim
Gatim
destination.
destination.
Dhatri uchitam, just suitable for the nurse.
Dhatri
Dhatri
uchitam,
uchitam,
just suitable for the nurse.
Dhatri uchitam, just suitable for the nurse.
Dhatri
Dhatri
uchitam,
uchitam,
just
just
suitable for the
suitable for
nurse.
the nurse.
Dhatri uchitam, just suitable for the nurse.
Dhatri
Dhatri
uchitam,
uchitam.
just suitable for the nurse.
Tatah, beyond whom.
Tataha, beyond whom.
Tatah, beyond whom.
Tataha beyond whom.
Tatah, beyond whom.
Tataha,
Tataha beyond whom.
Anyam, other.
Anyam
Anyam
other.
other.
Anyam, other.
Anyam
Anyam
other.
other.
Anyam, other.
Anyam
Anyam
other.
other.
Come, who else?
Come,
Come,
who else?
who else?
Come, who else?
Come,
Come,
who
who
else?
else?
Come, who else?
Come,
Come,
who
who
else?
else?
Vah, certainly.
Va, certainly.
Certainly.
Vah, certainly.
Va, certainly.
Certainly.
Vah, certainly.
Va, certainly.
Certainly.
Dayalum, merciful.
Dayalum, merciful.
Merciful.
Dayalum, merciful.
Dayalum,
Dayalum merciful.
Dayalum, merciful.
Dayalum,
Dayalum merciful.
Sharanam, shelter.
Sharanam,
Sharanam shelter.
Sharanam, shelter.
Sharanam,
Sharanam shelter.
Sharanam, shelter.
Sharanam,
Sharanam shelter.
Vrajema, shall I take?
Rajema,
Rajema
shall I
shall
take?
I take?
Vrajema, shall I take?
Rajema,
Rajema shall I take?
Vrajema, shall I take?
Rajema,
Rajema
shall I
shall I
take?
take?
Chandramauli Prabhu, can you please read translation now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the poison of mother to a she demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Anyone else can please study or read the translation again?
Yeah, I can read, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Hare Krishna.
Okay, now we will read the sloka once. Okay, finally, I'll just read the sloka now, and you please repeat, whoever are interested to. Aho bakiyam sthanakalakutam jigam sayapayayata yasadvi lebhe gatim dhatrayuchitam tatonyam kam va dayalum sharanam brajema. చంద్రమౌళి నువ్వు చేస్తారా?
One by one చేద్దాం ప్రభుజీ, one line by line.
One line by line. Okay, Prabhu. I'll just say you repeat, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Aho bakiyam sthanakalakutam
Aho bakiyam
Stanakalakutam
jhigam sayapa yayadat yasadvi
Jigam
sayapaya sadvi
lebhe gatim dhatrayuchitam tatonyam
Lebe
tatonyam.
I'm sorry, I spelled it wrongly. Again, I will do it. Lebhe gatim dhatrayuchitam tatonyam
Lebe gatindra
Tatonyam
kam va dayalum sharanam brajema.
Kamva dayalum saranam rajema.
చంద్రమోహన్ బాబు చేయగలరు ఒకసారి, రెండు మళ్ళీ చేయాలి.
ట్రై చేస్తాను.
చేయండి.
అహో బకియాం స్తనకాలకూతం జిగాంసాయ పయాయ అపయ
నేను
అపేసాయ
చెప్తాను, రిపీట్ చేయండి ఒకసారి. జీగాంసయాపాయదప్యసాద్వి
జిగాంసయాప్యాయదాపి సాత్వి
లేభే గతిం ధాత్రయుచితం త్రయుచితాం తతోన్యం
లేబే గతిం దాత్రయుచితాం తతోన్యాం
కం వా దయాళుం శరణం వ్రజేమ.
కం వా దయాళుం శరణం వ్రజేమ.
నేను మీకు వాయిస్ ప్రింట్ పెడతాను.
sure. Yeah,
ప్రభుజీ
sure.
ఇది సెకండ్ వన్ జిగానా జీగానా లాంగ్ చేయాలా ఇట్లా?
జీగా బాగా లాంగ్ చేయకుండా బాగా షార్ట్ కూడా చేయకూడదు మరి.
ఇది దాత్రి ఉచితం సెపరేట్ చదవాలా కలిపి చదవాలా ప్రభుజీ?
ధా అని త్రయుచితాం.
దా త్రయుచితం.
లేభే గతిం ధా త్రయుచితాం తతోన్యం.
త్రయుచితాం.
లేబే గతిం దాత్రయుచితాం తతోన్యాం.
లేభే గతిం ధా త్రయుచితాం తతోన్యం.
లేబే గతిం దాత్రయుచితాం.
Okay, Mataji, I am done with this. Now you can take the call, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anybody wants to recite this shloka? Hare Krishna.
I'll do Mataji.
Yeah, you can, Mataji.
अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूटं जीघांसयापाय यदाप्यसाध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्रि उचितां ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूटं जीघांसयापाय यदाप्यसाध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्रि उचितां ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Anyone wants to recite the shloka?
I'll do it, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूटं जीगांसयापाय यदप्यसाध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्र्युचितां ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूटं जीगांसयापाय यदप्यसाध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्रि उचितां ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji and Mataji.
Yeah, I can do Mataji.
Yes.
अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूतं जिघांसयापाययादपि साध्वी लेभे गतिं धात्रि उचितां ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेम. अहो बकीयं स्तनकालकूतं जिघांसयापाययादपि साध्वी लेभे
जीगांसयापाय यदप्यसाध्वी
जिघांसयापाययादपि साध्वी
जीगांसयापाय यदप्यसाध्वी
जिघांसयापाययादपि सापि
यदप्यसाध्वी यदप्य మొత్తం
जिघांसयापाययादपि साध्वी
यदप्य
यदप्य जिघांसयापाययाद्यप्य साध्वी
జిగాంసయాపా అని అన్నారు కదా, తర్వాత యదప్య సాధ్వి అదొకటే.
यद्य
యదప్య
यदप्य जिघांसयापाययादप्य साध्वी
yes,
लेबे गतिं धात्र्युचितं ततोऽन्यं कं वा दयालुं शरणं व्रजेमा.
Yes,
हरे
Prabhu.
कृष्ण.
Yes, Prabhu. Raju Prabhuji, ఉన్నారా?
ఇంకెవరు లేరు మాతాజీ,
Yeah, yeah.
మనం నలుగురమే ఉన్నాం.
Yeah, నేను ఒకసారి చదువుతాను. అహో బకీయం స్తనకాలకూటం జీకాంసయాపాయదప్యసాద్భి లేబే గతిం దాతృచితం తత్తోన్యం తం వా దయాళుం శరణం వ్రజేమ. అహో బకీయం స్తనకాలకూటం జీకాంసయాపాయదప్యసాద్భి లేబే గతిం దాతృచితం తత్తోన్యం కం వా దయాళుం శరణం వ్రజేమ. Yes, Mother. Thank you for joining today. Hare Krishna. Dandavatra.
హరే కృష్ణ.
हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.